I've had my fair share of run-ins with social anxiety, and it's not something that I see talked about a lot in the language learning space, and also just in general. Now, the main piece of advice when it comes to these sorts of things is that you just have to power through it, and don't eat my wires. That's not the piece of advice. And also to just to do it scared. Or if you were the most confident person in the world, would you still go talk to that person? Would you still go do that thing? And if the answer is yes, you go do it. I don't know. And that's pretty much it. They don't elaborate. There's no reasoning behind it. And I want to talk about that because there is some sort of overlap, right, between that and then also trying to socialize and connect with people in your foreign language. I've always found it hard to keep a conversation going, especially with people that I don't know that well, because they don't have a lot of their interests, hobbies, and also just a good social connection to play off of and riff off of in a conversation in real time. So this leads to a lot of awkward pauses, silence, and then during that silence, I have time to think to myself of, how bad I am at socializing with people, and it's just this very unhealthy loophole. Now that's English, that's my native language, so if we add a foreign language that I'm studying into the mix, that's another layer of complexity, and it used to be a total shit show. And I'm not gonna lie, even now, I have my slip-ups, I stutter in Japanese, but I've learned to let go of the nervousness and just take it what it is. I'm sitting down talking to another human, and especially in language exchange context, or just a Japanese person in general, 99 times out of 100, they're going to be, at some level, appreciative that you went out of your way to start studying Japanese. And they're learning English in most cases, right? In a language exchange setting, they're learning English, you're learning Japanese, you guys are going to make mistakes, and that's totally okay. Once you get your mind wrapped around that, then it comes down to the base issue, the problem for some of us, which is just having general social anxiety. I have a hard time interacting with strangers, and if I don't, it's only for the first, minute or two of interacting with people, because you have those set in stone phrases, you're greeting someone, going through the niceties, and then you get to the meat and potatoes of a conversation, and there's just nothing. That has been my experience for the most part with a lot of strangers in my native language, so you can only imagine how it's been in Japanese. One piece of advice I've seen online a lot is to do it scared. But I realized something is that I have a really good fight or flight response. So I play off of this. Let's say I'm in a restaurant that I usually, I'm a regular at, and I see a new person. Maybe they're out reading a manga, and I'm studying Japanese, right? I don't know this person at all. Now, typically, I would just keep studying, probably just get out of there and go before they notice me studying Japanese, and then try to walk up and talk to me because I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to be bothered with it. But what about this? If I did have all of the confidence in the world, all the energy, would I go talk to that person and introduce myself? And 9 times out of 10, in this case, it's going to be yes. And then, so you know what I do? I get up and I do it. Even though I don't want to, even though I'm terrified, I do it. And so what happens? I walk up to the person. I say, hey, I can't help but notice that you're reading Hunter x Hunter. It's a really good manga. Are you reading it in Japanese? And then just let whatever happens. And with my fight or flight response, I hate awkward silence. So I will try to fill the gaps. I will try to make it a good conversation if I can. And it typically works out in my favor. So that's cool and all. That works for the native language. But how about Japanese? With Japanese, it's basically the same idea. Now, one thing I noticed is during my output journey, early on, it was a ton of awkward silence, or pausing, or stuttering, or trying to find the right words, or using the wrong word and embarrassing myself. I still remember when I went into an onsen at 11 p.m. I saw an amusement park, and it looked really, really cool. It was near Mount Fuji, and I wanted to ask them what it was called because I thought it looked really cool. So I walked up to the receptionist, and I was like, "Yo, that Yochien looks really cool. What's it called?" I'm trying to go in there later, maybe. So Yochien is actually the word for a preschool, and then Yuenchi is a word for an amusement park. Yochien versus Yuenchi. I mixed those two up. And that was pretty fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. I almost got some authorities called over to me because they thought that I was trying to, not even to put it lightly, they just thought I was out there to do no good. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. So one thing I learned, that took so much time and energy out of my night, more than it needed to. It could have been solved by having, a better grasp on vocabulary. So that's one thing. even in your native language, if you have more words to work off of, you can keep conversations flowing, you can avoid awkward silence, and you can be more playful with your word choices. So that's something I kind of learned to take away from just my native language interactions and kind of bring it into Japanese is, because even in English, I see words I don't know, like every day. Maybe like 1 to 2. Sometimes, I'll go like 2 or 3 days without seeing like a new English word, but sometimes I'll see a new word and be like, huh, that's pretty fun. Words like hogwash, for example. I mean, I think a lot of English speakers know that word, but I think it's just more of a niche one. If you find words like that in Japanese, kind of use them, you can kind of branch off into completely new conversations. Another thing is that I was always worried that if I shared my hobbies or interests, I would either have to elaborate on them or I would be found to be weird and be talked to or treated a certain way. One thing I found to get over this is just to literally not care. And it sounds, it sounds like I'm making it something to be, easier said than done. And that is true. Like, to just simply not care, it's tough. I used to be super embarrassed to even say like that I watch anime, read manga. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed in recent years, like anime and manga has become much more mainstream. So I found that it's been easier to kind of talk about those sorts of things and not be embarrassed about it, I guess. If someone's not going to want to connect to you on a legitimate human level because you play too many video games or you go outside too much or whatever, right? Well then fuck them. Like honestly, if someone doesn't want to connect to you because of your interests, even if they don't perfectly align, then that person, you're probably better off moving on to make connections with someone else. So for me, I personally found that I didn't stop caring completely. It was more just being conscious that if I want to connect with someone, we gotta vibe with each other at the end of the day. And if someone's not gonna vibe with me, then cool, move on to the next person. And then with Japanese, this is actually, I found, even easier. You do a lot of language exchanges with people that you're probably never going to see again. And when you're abroad in Japan, unless you're out like in the countryside of a population of 5 people, right? You're probably never going to see that person again. So what's the damage? If you absolutely embarrass yourself in Japanese, or people find you to be a cringe neat, cool. That's great. You'll have that reputation amongst that one Japanese person in this very large country. Who cares? Literally, who cares? I probably shouldn't say this. Maybe I already have. I went to a ramen shop in one of my first trips to Japan, and I sat next to a businessman. And he started a conversation with me, which I've never had that happen before up to that point. I was really shocked. And he was like, oh, like, what kind of ramen is that? And I was like, chikan desu. Chikan. That was the closest pronunciation to chicken I could think of in Japanese. It's chicken, not chikan. Chikan means groper, pervert, or like just a groper, right? So from his perspective, he was like, dude, that ramen's good. What kind is it? I was like, fucking pervert. And then, he didn't talk to me the rest of the time. And I was like, no, I guess, Japanese people, he just wanted to answer very straight to the point. Yeah, and like, I think about that even now. That has been, what, like 7-8 years ago? I still think about it, and it's painstakingly vivid in my mind. But also, I haven't seen that guy since, He's not posting about it on Twitter. Maybe he is. I haven't seen it. It doesn't affect my life, so like, why should I even care? Just go out there and fail. Like, literally go out there and embarrass yourself. You do the same shit in your native language, actually. Like when you're a baby or a toddler, you might make some funny grammatical mistakes that your parents capture on video, and you go back and watch it years later for nostalgia because it's funny, it's cute. It's the same way in a target language. You're not going to have perfect adult level grammar and sentence structure like within the first few months, right? Unless you're trying to be super conscious about where everything goes and memorizing all these grammar rules, which you absolutely do not need to do. Go out there and do it, because if you fail, 1, it's going to make for some funny stories, and 2, if the person who's witnessing your failure is kind enough, they'll probably correct you on it. And so you get to learn from it, and you get to have a nice little memory kind of associated with it. And everyone wins. Everyone wins. There's unless you take it to heart and your ego's bruised, everyone wins. I did want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, Migaku. Their app has a cool OCR tool that lets you take pictures of real-life books, manga, and so much more. And then you can scan that text and look up the definitions of each Japanese word. When it comes to Japanese, each lookup does of course feature the definition of the word, but also the pitch accent. You can also generate an image or even get an AI definition with the sentence context included to understand how the word works better. It's also compatible with YouTube and Netflix so that you can immerse in all of your favorite content creators and shows. It even tells you what % of the show or video you can comprehend before going into it, so you can gauge how hard or easy to watch something will be. their tool makes it easy to create flashcards on the fly, whether on your laptop, PC, or mobile phone. If this sounds interesting to you, you can head over to migaku.com/JaredDesu to get an extra month for free or 50% off the lifetime plan. Back to the video. The last thing I wanted to touch on was volume. Whenever I was talking to people, with new people especially, my volume was kind of a bit on the lower end. And also my pitch, my intonation, whatever, and this is in English, right? It would just kind of be like this. Hey, what's up, man? Hope you had a good weekend. You know, I did notice that with people I was closer with my best friends, I felt like I was able to open up more, crack jokes, and, you know, use more vocabulary, not have to think as much before I spoke. And so with that, there was no filter. I didn't have to be as conscious about everything, and it just flowed a lot better. So for this one, it wasn't really that I was letting my guard down, but trying to be less like ultra hyper conscious about my word choices and about this and that. I think if you get a more general understanding of like your environment and who you're interacting with and what's appropriate to say and what isn't, I mean, that will take so much pressure off of having to consciously focus on like, oh, like, you know, can I structure my sentence like this? Is it okay to use this word? If I use this verb, will this woman think that I'm trying to harass her? Like, just be a decent human being, use a little bit of thinking, and just go into it talking like a normal person, because that's all we're trying to do. Now, I will say, I did have this phase where I was looking at a bunch of like social YouTube gurus to try to figure out how to talk to people better. And it got to this point where I was being super like analytical. It was quite obvious that there was something wrong with me, that I was being too calculated in my conversations, and it just came off as really like snarky, and just like people just were visibly uncomfortable talking to me. So there's definitely a balance that I had to find there. And so with Japanese, because your target language, because it's something you're learning, like of course you're going to be a bit more conscious about your word choices and if your sentence sounds natural and if this is the right thing to say in this conversation, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to imitate a native and become basically native or near native level, right? I do think at the end of the day though, it's about having a good conversation more than just having like a native conversation. If you know the words to at least connect with someone, even if the words are wrong or just something doesn't like, you know, sound right, it feels off, I would much rather have that happen in a conversation and connect with a person and make, you know, meaningful conversation than, you know, have a perfect Japanese conversation and nothing memorable comes of it. It's just like, oh, that white dude, like he had pretty good Japanese grammar. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that talking to another human, you know, having a conversation is not some grand complicated math equation that just has one correct answer. Real conversations branch off into thousands of possible sub-branches, and at the end of the day, to converse with someone, to make conversations, it's just to connect with someone, to genuinely make a connection and to vibe with somebody. And if that doesn't happen, if you don't vibe, the people move on with their lives. That's all it is. That's all it is. And once I came to this realization, just doing this in English, talking to people became so much easier, and I was able to translate that to Japanese. Like, do you really think that receptionist, whom I asked where the nearest preschool was at like 11 p.m., do you think he's gonna remember my mistake in 20 to 30 years from now? I mean, probably. That was pretty funny, like, honestly, but it doesn't really affect me. Like, I know I'm talking about it right now, but who cares? It was a funny moment, and I think that the whole point of just even living is to have fun, to enjoy life, to gesture max. So go out there, make mistakes, be funny, go talk to the people. The more people you talk to, the more potential friends you're gonna make, and you're just gonna get to learn more about the world. So like, who loses? No one loses. But yeah, overall, there's a lot of good advice online about just how to overcome anxiety and just talk to people and vibe out. But when it comes to actually like doing this in a foreign language, there's not much, if any, content that I could find on it. So I just wanted to touch on that and tell you about how that translated to Japanese for me. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please let me know by leaving a like and a comment, and stay tuned for future uploads. And as always, thank you to these wonderful channel members for supporting the channel. If you'd like to see your name up here, you can do so by joining down below. And yeah, we also have a Discord right here. Anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. So yeah, keep grinding, keep studying, and I will see you guys around. Peace.